On Monday, July 9th, President Trump made his selection for a new Supreme Court justice. Many applauded his selection, while others feared it is the end of the world for America. Before we discuss what has happened before and after he made his announcement, I would like to take a moment and remind my audience of the role of the Supreme Court. I will go over the status of the current court, as well as what you can all expect in the near future during President Trump's next 2.5 to 6.5 years left in office. The Supreme Court was established by the United States Constitution, and you can find more information about it in Article 3. The Supreme Court has a special role to play in the United States system of government. The Constitution gives it the power to check, if necessary, the actions of the President and Congress. It can tell a President that his actions are not allowed by the Constitution. It can tell Congress that a law it passed violated the Constitution is therefore no longer a law. It can also tell the government of a state that one of its laws breaks a rule in the Constitution. The Supreme Court is the final judge in all cases involving laws of Congress, and the highest law of all, the Constitution. The current Supreme Court is made up of 9 justices, 4 that have liberal leanings, 1 which is a swing vote, and 4 conservatives. Justice Kennedy is the swing vote who has just recently announced his retirement, which allows President Trump to make a selection for a replacement. With Kennedy retiring, who has been the swing vote on the court, we can also expect to see Ginsburg, who is 85, and Justice Breyer, who is 79, to announce their retirement, at least within President Trump's term. As you can see here, the future Supreme Court could easily become a conservative-leaning court by a 6-2 margin against the liberal justices. Why did I list Chief Justice Roberts as the new swing vote? In 2015, when the Affordable Care Act came to the Supreme Court for its survival, Roberts voted with the liberal side of the court by handing down a 5-4 vote in favor of Obamacare and sealing the fate of the law at least for a few more years. Justices Kennedy, Scalia, Thomas, and Alito voted against the law. While Chief Justice Roberts' ruling disappointed many on the conservative side, I think it is fair to say his ruling was based on an originalist or constitutionalist opinion. Chief Roberts' ruling was based on, it is abundantly clear the Constitution does not guarantee that individuals may avoid taxation through inactivity. A capitation, after all, is a tax that everyone must pay simply for existing, and capitations are expressly contemplated by the Constitution. Since health care is not listed in the Constitution, Roberts could only vote in favor of the Affordable Care Act due to taxing its citizens. However, in my humble opinion, Roberts' opinion was a bit of a stretch. Yes, Congress has the right to tax its citizens, which is stated in the Constitution, but nowhere does it say Congress nor the President can force the citizens to purchase health care or anything else for that matter. What are your thoughts? Please share with the rest of us in the comment section. Justice Ginsburg, on the other hand, voted for the ACA simply because she believes it is the right of everyone in America to have health care coverage. This is simply why the Supreme Court does not need justices with personal beliefs or ideologies when voting on a law before the court. In her writings, this was her justification. Congress has a rational basis for concluding that the uninsured, as a class, substantially affect interstate commerce. Those without insurance consume billions of dollars of healthcare products and services each year. Those goods are produced, sold, and delivered largely by national and regional companies who routinely transact business across state lines. The uninsured also cross state lines to receive care. Anyone else buy that as a constitutional basis in favor of the ACA? Once again, I would love to hear your views in the comment section below. As a constitutionalist, Chief Roberts bases his rulings on the written law and intent guided by the Constitution. In Obergefell v. Hodges, 2015, a civil rights case in which the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision that the fundamental right to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples by both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Even though Chief Roberts voted against the law, it was not based on ideology or bias against the LGBT community. Once again, he based it on the Constitution itself, which is the role of the Supreme Court justices. Chief Justice Roberts wrote his dissent in which he argued that, while same-sex marriage might be good and fair policy, the Constitution does not address it, and therefore it is beyond the purview of the court to decide whether states have to recognize or license such unions. Instead, this issue should be decided by individual state legislatures based on the will of their electorates. The Constitution and judicial precedent clearly protect a right to marry and require states to apply laws regarding marriage equally, but the Supreme Court cannot overstep its bounds and engage in judicial policy making. It is these examples that I believe Chief Justice Roberts will be the new swing vote vacated with Justice Kennedy's retirement. So what would a 7-2 vote in the Supreme Court mean for the future? My opinion is we will see the more rational role of the judicial branch of the United States. Laws will no longer be defended at the Supreme Court level based on feelings or ideological leanings of the justices. All cases will have to be defended by the laws of the land and withstand strong scrutiny under the weight of the Constitution. This is not a bad thing. It is what the Founding Fathers wanted, and as a result, the United States has the strongest and longest-lasting Constitution than any other country in the world. Even though America was only officially formed by the ratification of the Constitution in 1787, a mere 231 years ago, no other country has prospered as much or has been able to provide equal protection for all than the United States Constitution. However, there are those who are not rational when it comes to what President Trump does. It doesn't even matter who he's going to select to be the next justice of the Supreme Court. As you will see in this upcoming video, which was recorded days before the announcement, there were those on the street who had already made up their mind that regardless of who was selected, even though nobody had, he would be a terrible choice for the Supreme Court. Let's watch.
I'm Calvin Phillips with Campus Reform. Today we're in New York City talking to students about President Trump's Supreme Court pick. The only thing is he hasn't made that pick yet. Will people still have opinions on who it was, though? Let's find out. I think the big thing that's been in the news today, Supreme Court, Justice Kennedy stepping down, so there's a vacancy. All week people were worried about who it was going to be. This week he made his announcement. What's your reaction to the justice that he nominated today?
I'm honestly not surprised by his choice, but that's just worse for us.
I just saw the pick and I was like, it's almost at a point where you kind of expect that it's not going to be what you want.
He's quite, extreme in his views, and I don't know if it would make the Supreme Court very even.
I see it all over the news that he's racist and shit.
This new nominee is very racist, and I think it's starting a new wave of something very negative, and I'm really scared about what happens in the future and what choices he'll make.
And so what reaction have you seen on social media today after the news?
Oh, outrage, as it should be.
If this is just a reoccurring thing, he keeps doing this with different positions and just doing whatever he wants, abusing his power.
Do you feel like his pick is an abuse of power?
Basically, yeah.
His entire cabinet and everyone he's chosen has been the white supremacist Legion of Doom, and it's dangerous to everyone who looks like me.
You feel like the Supreme Court nominee today kind of falls in that same line?
Of course. They should all wear white hoods and burn crosses at the Capitol, because that's exactly the move. That's what they're going for.
And the fact that he would put someone up there that is so racist and is not practicing the equality that we need to see, it's insulting, and he's not going to last. I mean,
so you're not a fan of the pick?
I'm really not.
I did speak to my dad a couple days ago, and I know he was not a huge fan of the decision that he made.
What would be your message to President Trump on what qualities you would want a Supreme Court justice to have?
Black, a black woman.
Is it wrong, though, to suggest someone be picked just on the color of their skin, though?
I mean, but I said black women for a reason. Black women were the only ones who really turned out in full majority to not vote for President Trump.
I think you should just listen to the people, get the opinions of what people actually want.
Do you think President Obama listened to the opinions of the people when he nominated 2 Supreme Court justices?
I was young then, so I can't say that either.
Listen to your people. That's what you were hired to do. You've never been hired to do anything, but...
Didn't they also hire him, though, to nominate Supreme Court justices?
They did.
If you were picking a Supreme Court justice, what qualities would you want them to have?
someone who's actually just.
I definitely want them to be liberal and look to the views of the minorities. Like, the previous Supreme Court justice was a swing vote. Like, you should have some balance. You shouldn't just be all on one side.
President Obama did pick 2 liberal justices, though.
But now it's all conservative.
We have to just keep getting our voices out there.
Keep resisting.
Yeah, we have to. Because, like, obviously if that's his pick, then, like, there's nothing we can truly, like, do as, like, citizens other than, like, really get our voices out there that is not.
That's so bad. Here now, the man who did those interviews, Cabot Phillips, media director at campusreform.org. And this is NYU.
This is.
These are students at NYU?
Students. One member was actually a member of the faculty there. The woman who said she saw the outrage on social media. And
Unbelievable.
justified.
And your opening line was, he picked his nominee. What do you think?
What do you think? What kind of reaction have you seen? And this is really what happens when you convince an entire segment of our society, in this case college students, that you have to hate President Trump. It's all they are inundated with in class from professors. It's what they see on social media. So this knee-jerk reaction is what happens. And beyond that, there's also a peer pressure that exists on college campuses where many students, they look at what happens to conservative students on campus. They see the violence against them, the threats, how they're ostracized, and they say, I'm just going to go along with the path of least resistance, which is to hate Trump.
But if you had shot this tomorrow after the pick, you know, then you would say what you're saying, obviously, that there was groupthink because they don't even know this person yet. But what kills me is that they're lying. They're all lying. There is no pick. And so, A, they're not admitting that they don't know who the pick is. And B, they're adamant and arrogant about their stance on it. And they're completely ignorant. They have no idea that there's no pick.
And it's nothing new, this blind hatred. We covered at the Leadership Institute's Campus Forum last month. I was on, or just last year, I was on campus before the State of the Union address. 3 nights beforehand, I said, what do you think of the speech? And they said, it's the most racist speech I've ever heard. And then I told them, well, the State of the Union actually has not happened yet. And everyone said, oh, well, I knew that. I thought you were talking about a different speech. It's a pressure where people want to seem intelligent.
Unbelievable. Did anybody say, well, he hasn't picked anyone yet?
One student came out and said, I don't know too much about the justice, so I'm going to hold any judgment. It's probably the smartest answer that we got all day.
Great school. Unbelievable. All right. Thank you very much, Cabot. Good to see you.
2 days after the Street interview, President Trump finally made his announcement on who he was going to select as the new Supreme Court Justice. He selected Judge Brett Kavanaugh, a well-qualified, well-deserved jurist to fill that role. But you know how people are, so let the games begin. Thank you for watching this video and enjoy the rest.
Both Justice Kennedy and Justice Scalia were appointed by a president who understood that the best defense of our liberty and a judicial branch immune from political prejudice were judges that apply the Constitution as written. That president happened to be Ronald Reagan. In keeping with President Reagan's legacy, I do not ask about a nominee's personal opinions. What matters is not a judge's political views, but whether they can set aside those views to do what the law and the Constitution require. I am pleased to say that I have found, without doubt, such a person. Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court. Judge Kavanaugh has impeccable credentials, unsurpassed qualifications, and a proven commitment to equal justice under the law. A graduate of Yale College and Yale Law School, Judge Kavanaugh currently teaches at Harvard, Yale, and Georgetown. Throughout legal circles, he is considered a judge's judge, a true thought leader among his peers. He is a brilliant jurist with a clear and effective writing style, universally regarded as one of the finest and sharpest legal minds of our time. And just like Justice Gorsuch, he excelled as a clerk for Justice Kennedy. That's great. Thank you. Judge Kavanaugh has devoted his life to public service. For the last 12 years, he has served as a judge on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals with great distinction, authoring over 300 opinions which have been widely admired for their skill, insight, and rigorous adherence to the law. Among those opinions are more than a dozen that the Supreme Court has adopted as the law of the land. Beyond his great renown as a judge, he is active in his community. He coaches CYO basketball, serves meals to needy families, and, having learned from his mom, who was a school teacher in D.C., tutors children at local elementary schools. There is no one in America more qualified for this position, and no one more deserving. I want to thank the senators on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, for their consultation and advice during the selection process. This incredibly qualified nominee deserves a swift confirmation and robust bipartisan support. The rule of law is our nation's proud heritage. It is the cornerstone of our freedom. It is what guarantees equal justice. And the Senate now has the chance to protect this glorious heritage by sending Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court. And now